Okay, so obviously you want to put your name. This is 2 lessons today. We're going to do lesson 2.4 and 2.5. And the topic is add and subtract. I'm abbreviating. Fractions. Today's date is the 30th, 9:30. And this is period 2. Okay, the essential question is how do we add and subtract fractions? How do we add and subtract fractions? Okay? So there's not a lot of like vocab or stuff like that on this one. There's not a lot of words. It's mostly just examples. But the first thing we're going to look at is unlike fractions. So put that on the left. Unlike meaning unlike denominators. This is the thing that most people struggle with, and they struggle with it all through high school if they don't learn it now. So we're going to learn it now, then we don't have to struggle in high school. So unlike fractions, I'm going to start off with a real easy one. So let's put example 1. And we'll do one like 1/2 plus 1/4. This is simple. The denominators are small. We should be able to find the lowest common denominator, which is called the LCD, right? The LCD. What is the LCD? Anyone could say it?
4.
4, good. Because 2 goes into 4 and 4 goes into 4. Do you remember that? Okay? So if we change, we have to change this one to a 4, right? The 1/4 is okay. So let's change the second one. So we have to multiply by 2, top and bottom. So now we have 2 over 4 plus 1 over 4, which is what?
3/4.
Good. This is a real basic example. Okay? Real basic, like 4th grade example, right?
Yeah.
Let's try another example. Let's go to example 2. And in 7th grade, we start putting negatives, so I'll put a negative. So 1, it's a negative 1/2 plus 9/10. So what's the LCD of 2 and 10? 10, good, because 2 goes into 10 and 10 goes into 10. So that means we have to change this one. We have to multiply by 5, right? To get to 10.
Yeah.
So now we have negative 5/10 plus a 9/10. What's negative 5 plus 9?
4.
4, right?
Oh.
So 4 over 10, but we can simplify. We can divide by 2. So when you divide by 2, you get 2/5. Good. So we went from 4th grade to 7th grade. That was it, really. Okay? Let's try another one. Let's say I have a negative 2/3 minus 1/2. What's the LCD there?
6.
6, good. So now I have to change both of them to make them 6, right? So this one's times 2. Some teachers taught you just to cross multiply. That's fine too. And this one's times 3. Okay? So now on the top I have negative 4/6 minus 3/6. What's negative 4 minus 3?
Negative 7.
Good. I'm glad that you stopped and thought about it. Negative 7/6. And now I divide 6 into 7. That goes one time, right? Don't forget to put the negative. Negative 1 and 1/6. Any questions so far? So it's not, I'm not really changing the math, I'm just putting the negatives. That's the only difference for 7th grade. Okay? So let's try now, we're going to write on the left side mixed fractions. Whenever I teach mixed fractions in 7th grade, I get all kinds of different things happening. Like people tell me, oh, in elementary school my teacher told me to do this or that, or I don't know what happened, but it feels like every year what kids are telling me is like the long way to do it. Would you prefer the long way or the short, easy way?
Short, easy way.
Okay. A couple of you want to do it the long way because you're like, that's your habit and you want to keep it with it, and that's fine. But I'll show you the easy way, okay? So let's do another example for this. All right, example again. Example 1 for mixed fractions. So we have 7 and 4/9 plus 10 and 2/9. Okay, so raise your hand if your teacher in elementary school said to turn these into improper fractions. You remember that? They said do 9 times 7 plus 4, and then they said add them and then put them back into mixed. That's the most common thing that the teachers are teaching in elementary school. Okay? I don't teach it that way because that seems like extra work to me. So what I do first is I add the whole numbers. So I do 7 plus 10, and that's 17. And I just kind of like put a box around it or circle it. And then the second thing I do is I add the fractions. So now I have 4/9 plus 2/9, which is 6/9. What is 6/9 simplified?
2/3.
Good. We're dividing by 3, so we have 2/3, and then I put a box around that. And then I just combine the two, so I have 17 and 2/3. And that's my answer. Has anyone ever learned it that way? Good. Several of you. To me, that's a lot easier than going to improper, adding, and then going back. Because what if you go to improper and now you have unlike denominators and all that kind of stuff? It just seems like too much work to me anyway. Okay, let's go on to example 2. So we have 8 and 5/6, and we'll subtract 2 1/3. So step 1, we're going to add or subtract the whole numbers. So we have 8 minus 2 is 6. Put a box around that. And then we have 5/6 minus 1/3. I need an LCD there, right? 6. So I'm going to change this to 6, and I'm multiplying by 2, so I'm just going to change that to 2. So 5 minus 2 is 3, and 3/6 is 1/2. Combine the two, I have 6 1/2. It's a pretty easy method. It's so easy that you probably could do that in your head, right? With showing maybe a little bit of work when you get to the unlike fractions, but for the most part you could do a lot of that in your head. Okay? Questions? Comments? Yeah? Oh, go ahead. Any comments, questions in the back? Raise your hand if you think this is a little bit easier to do it this way. Okay. We're going to do a third example. And we'll up the ante and make it more of a 7th grade question, so we'll put negative. So negative 3 and 1/4 plus a negative 1 3/4. Okay. So first the whole numbers. I have a negative 3 plus a negative 1. What is that? Negative 4. Good. Now the fractions. I have a 1/4 plus a negative 3/4. What is 1 minus 3?
2.
Negative 2, right? Don't forget the negative. So negative 2/4 is the same as what? Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to put the negative right here. Whoopsie. That changes it, doesn't it? So what's negative 1 and negative 3?
-1.
Negative 4, right? Which is negative 1, someone said. Right? See, I forgot the negative right there. And so what's negative 4 and negative 1? 5? Negative 5. Oh, good. I'm just making sure you're awake. Okay, so just break it down into steps. It's a lot easier. Okay with that stuff? Let's do some U-tries. I have 2 U-tries today. I'm going to flip over the paper, but I'll let you guys finish writing first. Are we good? Okay. I'm going to upload this to YouTube right after, so if you miss anything, you can watch it later. Okay. So the U-tries. The first one. U-try. Okay. First U-try. And remember, don't say the answer out loud. Just raise your hand when you think you know. Okay? So I have negative 7.5 minus 1.5. Negative 7.5 minus 1.5. Some people are going to do that in their head. That's okay. Those of you with your hand up already, did you do that in your head?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, what is it?
Negative 9.
I heard negative 6 and I heard negative 9. Raise your hand for negative 6. Raise your hand for negative 9. Raise your hand for I'm not finished yet. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to work it out and show you. So first I'm going to take the whole number. So I have a negative 7 minus 1, and that makes a negative 8. So be careful there. And then I have a negative half minus a half, and that makes a negative 1. You put them together and you get negative 9. So the people that said negative 9 were right. Any questions on that? You see, I know how you got negative 6. It happened right here, huh? You put negative 6 right there, and then you put this as 0. That's what happened. Okay, last one. Negative 6.5 minus a negative 4.5. Just raise your hand when you know. All right, 1, 2, 3, what is it? I heard 11, I heard negative 2. Is there anything else that was said? Negative 10? Okay, so let's work this out. So first I'm going to look at the whole numbers. So I have a negative 6, this minus thing, see that? That makes a plus, right?
Yes.
So really this is negative 6 plus 4, which is negative 2. Aha.
I got it right.
And then I have a negative half minus half. So that's like negative half plus a half,
Which equals 0.
0. Additive inverses. And so my answer is just negative 2. Aha. Are we solving some fraction mysteries today? I think so. Okay, for the next little bit of practice, I just want you to do page 303. You don't have to write this down. I'm just writing it down for people that are watching the recording. Number 2, number 6, and number 8 on page 303 in your math book. Number 2, number 6, and number 8.